Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, as you saw from the title, I am talking about the pros and cons of living in Africa. I was in Nigeria and South Africa, so I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. Now, I'm just going to get right into the video because I just want to go right ahead and tell you what I feel, my opinion, Taje's opinion, the pros and cons are about living in Africa. I've lived in South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, and I've lived in Lagos, Nigeria. So let's go right into it. Okay, so the first thing I will say that is a crucial thing that affects everyone is the expenses. Okay. Talking pro was saying living in Nigeria or living in Africa is cheaper as opposed to living abroad. So, people would rush there, and if you're a millionaire, for example, if you're a millionaire in, say, America or in England, for example, in Nigeria, you would be a billionaire. So living cost in Nigeria or in South Africa, in Africa in general, is generally cheaper than living abroad. Okay? On the con side of things, you would say that living in Africa can be expensive. Because if you're used to a certain type of lifestyle and you want to live that lifestyle in Africa, you end up paying more for what you want. Simply because people in Africa seem to think that if you're offering them something that is of higher quality or from somewhere, let's say something that's brought in, imported in from outside the country, therefore you should be paying for it to be at your table, basically. So if you wanted to eat good food, for example, I don't even know, if you wanted to eat good food like good steak or lamb chops or something along those lines, people generally import it from, let's say in Nigeria, people import it from South Africa, for example. And in situations like that, if you were having a normal meal, Nigerian made meal, you'd be paying 2,000 naira, 3,000 naira. Whereas if you were trying to have lamb chops or steak or something, you're looking at 20,000 naira for a meal. So that's the con side of the expenses in Nigeria, expenses of living in Africa in general. However, if you have this buku money, then you're good. Living in Africa will be ideal for you. It'll be perfect. Stomach and swallow all the other extra things that, come along with it. Okay. So the next thing I will say is housing. So pro side is housing kind of makes more sense in the sense that there's land. So for example, if you wanted to spend, let's say 10 million naira. That's not even enough. Let's say you wanted to spend 50 million naira. You would get a huge compound to live in, and you'd be living la vida loca. You'd be living large, you would have staff, all kinds of things for that 50 million. However, if that 50 million was translated to dollars or pounds, you'd be living like a pauper. Not a pauper, but you wouldn't be. You definitely, you can't compare housing in Africa to housing abroad. Housing abroad, the houses are small. If you get the big houses there on the outskirts, and even then, the land, you can't compare the size of land to the size of land in Africa. South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, anywhere. Housing land in Africa is ridiculous. So that's the pro. The con, however, is if you wanted to live closer to, let's say you're living in Lagos and you wanted to live in the Lekki Phase 1s, the Victoria Islands, Central, the Ikoyis and the Banana Islands, you would literally be paying out of your nostril because you'd be paying ridiculous amounts of money because you're trying to live close to where you work and close to where you live your life. So you would be paying a ridiculous amount of money simply because location has become a thing, which is also a thing everywhere else in the world, if I'm being honest. However, in Nigeria, the corruption that plays parts in it calls for all kinds of things. However, in South Africa, it's also the same thing in the sense that if you want to live in certain kind of areas, you pay certain kind of things. However, South Africa has a lot of large estates, yeah? For example, Dainfern, for example. Dainfern is in the Fourways area, and Dainfern has large It's a lot, massive estates. And Kalani, for example, massive estates, but each person's land is huge. But that's the way it's created. So South Africa allows for more room for that to happen within your budget. Does that make sense? Yeah. Whereas, yeah, so you wouldn't necessarily be paying as much as you would be paying in somewhere like Nigeria. So those are the cons of housing.
No video today, but please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Please, thank you.
The pros of living in Africa are there are no rules. When I say there are no rules, there are rules that people break left, right, and center, and people get away with it. Why is this the case? Because money talks, bullshit walks. So you could, I don't even know. You could, I'm going to think of an extreme thing here. You could, I'm trying to think of an extreme thing that is still within human rights. I was going to say hit someone in the road driving and drive away, and people do that all the time. But that's not something to add to a pro. That's a con. However, a pro is there are no rules. So for example, you could, I don't even know, start a business and no one is going to come and question you for a very long time until you probably start making money, and then they will start hounding you until you become like really rich. I'm not even talking like little money, like really rich, and then they'll start hounding you for taxes, back taxes and all that. But in the meantime, when you're a small business, there's perks. You are allowed, not necessarily, it's like an unwritten rule. People say pay taxes. A lot of small businesses don't pay taxes. So that's why I said there are no rules. There's so many other examples, but that's the one I could just give you a snippet of. So the con of that is that there are no rules. So people get away with all kinds of rubbish. For example, someone could be driving really fast late at night and hit someone, and they would disappear. We don't have cameras. We don't have anything like that that's gonna, find you. There's no such thing as, well, they say there is. There's no such thing as a detective trying to find out who hit this person and why they hit this person. And that also determines, and the only way that would even happen is if you were like a rich person. That's the only way someone would be trying to investigate based on money. However, it's not like abroad where whoever is hit, people are trying to investigate the situation, no matter the situation, no matter who the person is. Someone has died randomly on the road, they're trying to find out what the situation is. The CSIs and the FBIs and all of them are trying to find out the reason that this is happening. The reason that someone has been killed, or the reason that, whereas in Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, South Africa is a little bit different. South Africa has become more, I don't want to say gentrified, but they become more modernized in the sense that they have all these tools. However, people are still able to get away with more things than they would here in America, for example, or in England, for example. So, another thing that you could definitely do to get away. So, the fact that there are no rules, people are able to get away with all kinds of things. So, someone could hit someone on the road and drive off, and nothing would happen. They would literally pack the person's body. They would try and find the person's family members, if they have a phone on them. But for example, if they have no form of identification of them, they're not doing anything. They will just drop the body. There's so many people that their families don't know where they are till this day because they've died somewhere and they've been found, but their family, they weren't able to contact the family. So yeah, that's the cons of not having any rules. And that's also brings me to my next point of justice. There's no justice. So the pro of no justice is you as a rich person, for example, you love me, no, I love you more. When you say you need me, no, I need you more. I am strong. Do, 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 do. Okay. So, no justice. So the pro of no justice is if you're a rich person and you committed a crime, you can get away with it. And why I say you can get away with it is because you can pay people. There's lots of bribery and corruption in Africa, just generally. No matter where in Africa is, no matter where it is in Africa, there's bribery and corruption. Simply because people aren't just being paid their full wage. They're not being paid up to the standard of work that they're doing. So they're always open to getting extra money. They're always open to making their lives better, essentially. And I don't blame them. If you're not getting paid properly and someone is trying to give you money so you don't report them, And this money can make your life better and feed your children, pay your rent. Come on. So yeah, no justice. If you're a rich person, you committed a crime, you can get away with it. It's just what it is. So that can work in people's favor. However, the con is there's no justice. So the little people, the small people, the people that don't have money are struggling. There's no way out. That's why there's robberies all around the place. There's armed robberies, people are getting robbed everywhere. Whereas you could be driving at night in your car. In South Africa, that's like the norm. They smash and grab. You could just be driving and they'll hit your car, hit your glass and steal from you and run away, or they will steal your car. Whatever it is that they feel like they can get from you, they will get. So having no justice because there's no regulations to how much people earn and how much, how a person is living their life and how they're able to survive. There's no regulations. So that's what happens with having no justice. Crimes pop up. That's why we have so much crime in Africa. I'm generalizing to the T, but that's why we have so much crime in Africa. Because people are feeling like they are not getting what they deserve and they are feeling underappreciated, and a lot of people are angry. That brings me to my next point. Mental health isn't taken serious in Africa. It's just what it is, especially in Nigeria. South Africa, they try. South Africa is a little better, and again, I say that's because they are still they only just got their independence very recently. So very recently. Nigeria is 50 years old of independence. South Africa is younger than us. So they're still trying to, I guess things are still in place for them. They haven't destroyed their system completely. It's sad to say, but it is what it is. In Nigeria, we've trashed things. Okay, now, mental health isn't taken seriously in Africa. It's just what it is, especially in Nigeria. Mental health is just not taken seriously. So there's a lot of mad people around. There's crazy, angry people everywhere in Nigeria. Literally everywhere. You turn like this, is a mad person. Turn like this, it's madness. And the thing is, I feel like the best place for them to pour out their frustration on the world and their lives is when they're driving. It's the craziest thing. You would think that they would find someone to talk to and pour their frustration. Nope. Pretend like life's going well throughout the day. And when they get in their car and another fellow mad person that's dealing with mental health issues that they haven't addressed, they both start to rack each other out. So you will see the amount of road rage in Nigeria is ridiculous. You will see someone in their car and maybe you swerved wrong. Abroad, someone might just honk for you and keep it pushing. Or someone might be like, they might not even honk, they might just curse you in their car and keep it pushing. In Nigeria, someone can cut you off because you swerved wrong, and then they can decide to knock on your window and drag you out, and then people start fighting, or someone can hit you by accident. Those of people don't have car insurance, so no insurance is going to pay for their car. So that turns into a fight because they want the other person to pay for their car because they don't have insurance that's going to pay for their car. When I tell you that it is madness, trust me. Driving in Nigeria, for example, is madness. Driving in South Africa, the only thing you worry about is safety. Like whether or not someone's going to crash into your car. Because in South Africa, day or night, whatever time of the day it is, anyone can hit into you, can smash and grab you in your car. However, it just depends on what areas you go to. It's not everywhere, so no need to worry, no need to panic. Whereas in Nigeria, you just have to be careful. You just have to make sure you drive like a human being and you're not taking your frustration out on anyone. Because there's also situations where the person can be in the wrong. Hear me. The person can be in the wrong and the person will still fight you. Taken seriously at all. People are just doing all kinds of madness. Mental health is not taken seriously in the least bit. Matter of fact, if you say that you're not feeling well mentally, people think you're mad. Or if you say you're seeing a psychologist, therapist, whatever it is, they think you're mad. Physically, they literally think that you're mad. That you're mad. Like a mad person roaming the streets. If you say you're seeing a therapist, or you're seeing a psychologist, or you're seeing anything that has to do with mental health, has to do with your insides, automatically they think you're mad. Like they don't even think, oh, are you serious? What's going on? Is everything okay? Nope. It's so
Do your girl a favor and hit that subscribe button. Thank you.
Frowned upon to take care of your mental health. There's a lot of there's a lot of Nigerian men that genuinely believe that they shouldn't be talking about the fact that they were raped as a kid. Like, that's how they started having sex. Most Nigerian men. If I say, I'm generalizing, I'm jumping off the gun, I don't have any proof, but I want to say 60% of Nigerian men were raped as a kid. That's how they started having sex. And maybe, I want to say 2% are dealing with it with like a therapist. 2% are dealing with it mentally. 2%. And then there's also the notion that because we're such a Christian nation, people genuinely believe that you shouldn't go and talk about your problems to anyone else, even though they're trained and they learned how to help you. You should only talk to God. I'm all for talking to God about your problems. That's me. That's life. But I also feel like you can talk to a therapist as well as God, because God gave these people the knowledge that they're using to teach you. I will say something: if you're a Christian, find a Christian, therapist, so that you don't have someone that's telling you things that are against your faith. However, that their Christian therapist should tell you that it's all part of the Lord. I don't even know. Look, I'm getting hot and bothered. Living in Nigeria, you guys, I'm not even playing. It can be the most frustrating thing that you will ever do in your life, but it has its benefits and it definitely has its cons. The next point. Politics is trash. I'm just going to say what it is. It is what it is. The politics in Nigeria, let me explain something to you that I would say the politics being trash has its pros and cons. If you have someone in politics, you're going to be rich. If you have a friend in politics, family in politics, you're balling, because they're going to steal money for you. They're going to steal money and be sending you a whole lot of money. You buku money, you have cars, all kinds of things. Close friends, family in politics, you're good. That's the pro. The con, however, is the money doesn't go to where it's supposed to go. For example, let's say the president assigned 50 billion to fix roads around the nation in, let's say, Lagos or something, or Abuja or something. Abuja is a bit different, Lagos or something, yeah? And he said 50 billion, fix all the roads. So ideally, let's say out of that money, maybe 1 billion is supposed to be the salary for the person that's going to be in charge of all this, apart from paying everyone else. And let's say the actual amount that's supposed to cost is going to be probably 35 billion, and then the remaining money is for salaries all around. However, the greed of politicians in Nigeria is so peak that they will instead assign, out of 50 billion, they will probably assign 5 billion to fixing the roads. And the rest of the money they will share amongst themselves or keep to themselves. It's madness. It's absolute madness. Politics in Nigeria, in Africa in general, because the same thing happens in every other African countries, is trash. The difference between, I'm sure abroad as well, they steal money. But the difference with stealing money so stupidly is that if you're stealing money as a politician, but you're doing the things that you said you were going to do, and you're doing things to make the nation better, no one will bat an eyelid. No one cares. No one cares. No one will bat an eyelid. Not one person will bat an eyelid. Simply because you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're making the nation better. Your people, the wellness of your people is your priority. But if your greed is your priority, everyone's angry. So added to the fact that they have mental health issues, they have mental things that they haven't dealt with within their families, broken families, whatever, and they're dealing with that for their road rage. They also have a problem with the nation and the presidency and the government, the governance of the country. The anger within people that are living in Nigeria, for example, is insane. And I can't blame them. I found that when I was in Nigeria as well, I was angry a lot of the times when I was driving. Why? Because there's so much to frustrate you. So much. And I'm not even on the lower end of the spectrum where people are really frustrated and they have no way out. Yeah. I'm just going to go to the next point because I will end up being on this politics topic for a long time because it's a deep topic. So the next point, happiness can be bought. Why do I say happiness can be bought? Okay, the pro for happiness being bought is if what makes you happy is living in a large house and being married with 4 children, going to amazing schools, and you have expensive cars, expensive food, you're just living la vida loca, and that is what happiness means to you, then you can buy happiness easily in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole. Easily. Especially if you're rich. Easily. That would be happiness. However, the con to that is, the people that can't afford things like that, and people that is what they consider to be happiness, and they can't even afford a fraction of it, and they see all these other people that are able to do these, and they can't lend a hand to another man that needs help or needs something. Then you have angry people everywhere. Everywhere. Angry individuals everywhere. So that's the pros and cons. I'm not going to go deep into this topic because this is not a let's talk politics in Africa. This is just the pros and cons, according to Taje, about living in Africa. Final 2 points. Growing in the industry, for example, whatever industry you're in is achievable. Now, growth in the industry, whatever industry, financial sector, media sector, farming, whatever it is, whatever sector that you're in, growth is achievable, but you have to have the money or you have to know someone. It's just what it is. The con to that is people that don't know people within the industry or within whatever
You haven't still hit the subscribe button. Come on. Please hit it.
industry they're trying to grow in, but they have the grades or they have things to back it up, they're not able to grow and get to where they're trying to get to simply because they don't know anyone, you know? And that's really upsetting and very sad and really quite an unfair thing. It's an unfair advantage. So if you feel like you have the money and you're able, or you know people, you have contact, your family has contact, and you're able to get to where you want to get to, that's great for you. Well done. But it's not great for the next man that's not able to do that simply because they don't know anyone. However, they went to school, they got a first class. First class is a 5 GPA, full, 100%. And yet, because they don't know anyone, they're not able to get into doors. Whereas if it's abroad, you know anyone, you don't know anyone, your grades will get you through the door. Your grades and what you've done with your life will get you through the door. So those are the pros and the cons. The final thing is money is overly important. So how will I break this down? The pros for this is money is important. If you have money, you're able to live your life. If you have access to money, you're able to get this money to live your life. The con is money is needed for survival. So the people that can't get this money and need this money to survive, need this money to pay for rent, need this money to eat. Some people don't even have money to eat, guys. Need this money to pay for rent, need this money to eat, need this money to go to work, transportation, all kinds of things. To them, money is survival. So they will do anything for money. They kill family members for money. Maybe someone, a father died or something and he left money to the siblings or whatever, and the oldest one is supposed to get the grunt of the money. However, the younger one feels like they have been the ones that have been there taking care of the parent. They will kill the older one. It's a very sad reality. Very sad. However, apart from all these things, I want to just say that I'm not trying to make living in Africa look bad. I'm not trying to make living in Africa the worst thing in the world. I'm not trying to make living in Africa look like, horrible. I'm just trying to tell you the pros and the cons. If you feel like all the things that apply to pro are you, by all means, go on right ahead and live your best life. Whereas if you feel like the con sector and you don't have the money to do all these things, I suggest you stay wherever you are in your country. However, you can go to Africa and make it big because it's an easier climb. You'll be a big fish in a small pond as opposed to somewhere abroad where you're a small fish in a big pond. So yeah, I'm not trying to say that living in Africa is horrible. There's pros and there's cons. You just have to take what applies to you and, roll with it. I'm going to stop there because I feel like if I keep talking about home, as you can see, this is the map of Nigeria because I am a Nigerian girl. But yeah, I'm not trying to make it seem like anything. Nigeria is home. Home is where the heart is. Africa is home. I'm an African girl. It was Africa Day recently, so it's all love and joy and happiness. And most of us in this world originated from Africa anyways. So yeah, I just wanted to share my opinion of what I feel the pros and cons of living in Africa are. That's literally what it is. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. You are a boss. You are a bad bitch. You are the real G. Everything. Just for watching the video to the end. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. And let me know what you think about living in Africa. If you've lived in Africa, let me know. If you've lived in Nigeria, if you're Nigerian, let me know. Whatever it is, let me know in the comment section. If you feel like anything that I said in the pros and cons part was false, correct me. I don't have to agree, but correct me anyways. And leave it in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll definitely catch you in my next video. Ciao.